So today we are going to talk about artificial reef. Let me see. So, yeah, you can see?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna make it big so that the audience can see also.
Mm-hmm.
So, the topic today is the misconception. The misconception of artificial reef and its danger. Okay, so let me go down here and put my notes. Okay, misconceptions surrounding artificial reef. Ooh, it's gonna get warm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so misconception surrounding artificial reef has persisted for decades, largely because the term itself creates the illusion that a reef can simply be constructed, replicated, or replaced through engineering. Okay, to understand why this is fundamentally flawed, we must first understand what exactly coral reef truly is. A coral reef is not a structure beneath the sea. It is a geological formation. Let me repeat, a geological formation born through biological processes over immense period of time. Corals through continuous growth, calcium carbonate deposition, ecological succession, and interaction with countless of marine organisms, they gradually build a living geological system. Let me repeat, a living geological system that becomes integrated with the surrounding environment. A reef is therefore both alive and geological, a dynamic union between biology, chemistry, oceanography, and most importantly, time. Okay? So, when we talk about a geological structure, we must think of other geological structure. Example, mountains, or hills, or valleys, or rivers, or limestone karst, a geological structure. Yeah. If a mountain is damaged, can we dig another mountain and build on top of that damaged mountain? We don't, right? But when a coral reef that is a geological structure is damaged, we go dig another geological structure. We damage another geological structure to rebuild on top of this damaged structure. So this is bizarre, right?
Yeah.
So when a reef degrades, whether biological, through coral mortality, or geological through erosion and collapse, what is lost cannot simply be recreated by placing concrete or steel or tires or fabricated structures into the ocean. This installation may provide temporary surfaces for marine organisms to attach to, but they are not coral reef in the true ecological or geological sense. Okay? At best, they function as artificial substrate. This is even more bizarre, because when we put something in the ocean, we are putting problems, more problems. I will come to this shortly. At worst, they create a dangerous illusion that the destruction of natural reef can somehow be compensated through engineering. This is the dangerous illusion. Okay? So, this misconception, it has delivered or diverted our attention away from the real cause of reef decline. Okay? The misconception. This is the dangerous part. Let me highlight the part on this slide here so that we can see what part I'm talking about. Yeah, the danger, its danger is that it creates an illusion that the coral reef can be reconstructed by engineering. Okay? This narrative is not only scientifically misleading, but is environmentally dangerous. Okay? This part here. So, now a reef structure is not a structure to be built. It is a living geological system. Let me underline that part. A living geological system that takes nature thousands of years to create. Okay? So, let me erase the other part. Okay. Now, the misconception, it has diverted attention away from the real causes of reef decline. It does not direct sciences, especially institutional sciences, towards digging up the root cause of the problem, because it encourages institutional sciences to come and create a replacement of this problem. Okay? So, if anyone can tell me, if somebody just blasted away, dynamite away a mountain, can we construct something to replace that mountain? People would think that idea would be absurd, right? But this is what happened. This is what happened. People blasted away big mountains to create more concrete, not only just for our accommodation, not just for our home. We now call it conservation by damaging another ecosystem. Okay? So, this is the dangerous part of this illusion. So, artificial reef did not solve the coral reef degradation problem. They mask the symptoms while allowing the underlying problems like pollution, like destruction of coastal development, sedimentation, overfishing, climate stress, and ecological negligence to continue largely unchallenged. So the underlying problem, like pollution, destruction, sedimentation, will continue largely unchallenged. Because why? Those are the root cause. It is masked over it already. Society become comfortable believing that damaged reef could simply be replaced, rebuilt, or offset through construction projects. And this narrative is not only scientifically misleading, but it is environmentally dangerous. Okay? So, let's go on to see the other part. There is also a deeper contradiction that is often ignored: the material used to create the artificial reef structures must themselves be extracted from Earth Where do you get cement from? You need to destroy limestone mountains and stuff and construct. So the material, not only that it damaged this environment, limestone cars, mountains, and wherever the mineral is available for them to dig, it's going to damage that part. And another part, when we talk about material, this is what happened. If you look in the social media, that people that is using artificial structure as substrate to grow coral, they constantly come with toothbrush, toilet brush, whatever kind of brush to brush away the algae. Why? I tell you why. When you create an environment that is ideal for algae to grow, clean surfaces, for example, right? When you place them in the ocean, I want you to take a piece of tile or something that is clean and place it in the ocean for 4 or 5 hours and go back and pick it up. What appears on top of that tile or clean surface is a slimy coat of algae. So is the algae the problem or is your material the problem? This is what the people did not really address, the root cause of the material they use, and then they lead people to misinterpret that algae is bad for coral. But algae occurs in the natural ocean environment naturally. Why? Because they have their ecological function. Their ecological function is to absorb nitrogen compounds, nitrogen-based compound, ammonium, phosphorus, and whatnot. And by doing so, it filters the water of this toxic material that otherwise going to kill corals. So is algae the problem or the material the problem? The algae is trying to mitigate the problem we created when we put artificial material in the ocean. Okay? There is always the material used to create the artificial reef structures themselves. Not only that it destroys Earth from its extraction, but it also creates secondary causes or secondary problems. Then comes the cement production, quarrying material. This, in the last presentation last week, I've spoken about this cement material already, how bad they are. But it literally contributes to one of the most damaging things that mankind can do on Earth. It pollutes river water. It depletes sand from rivers. It destroys mountain for rocks and limestone for making the cement. Cement, the process of making cement produces 8% of the carbon emission in the atmosphere, 8%. And that is raw, okay? Then the environmental debt is simply transferred, not eliminated. What do I mean? Attempting to repair one ecosystem artificially, we may unintentionally or literally contribute to the degradation of another ecosystem. That means the environmental debt that we created by simply transferring the problem and not eliminating the problem. We are trying to replace what is damaged. It is not a machine. A coral reef is not a machine. You cannot replace them, right? To replace them, you need material, and that material is damaging to other parts of Earth. That is the narrative behind the artificial reef and its danger. not only that it danger physically, chemically, environmentally, it is endangering the perception of people around the world to think that we can fix coral reef degradation by replacing them with whatever structure we think suits. Yeah. Now it is critical that this misunderstanding be corrected. Why I bring this up is not that to condemn people. I want to clarify things and correct it, because for many decades already, people has been comfortably throwing things in the ocean in the name of conservation and not addressing the root cause of the problem. Okay? So now it's critical that this misunderstanding be corrected. Artificial structures should never be presented as a replacement for coral reef. Conservation must move beyond symbolic intervention. This has all show symbolic intervention. And we must return to the ecological truth. It is ugly, but it's the ecological truth. And also we must return to scientific accountability. What do I mean by scientific accountability? Researchers who research on artificial reef should now shift all this, because to understand its danger is to shift away from it. So use the science for a more accountable way. Yeah. So we must move away from symbolic intervention that encourages science to deviate from its true purpose and become scientifically accountable. And the preservation of natural reef forming processes must be learned. We must invest in the knowledge of the preservation of the natural environment through science, not using the science to divert everything into building something that was never be. Human cannot build another geological structure. There will never be. On Earth, there is only one living organism that is capable of building a geological structure, and that is coral. Human cannot work like coral for millions of years. They cannot, right? They cannot create a geological structures through secretion of calcium carbonate, skeletal material like coral do. Yeah. So we cannot do what coral do. If we want to mimic, we are going to destroy mountains, which is another ecosystem. So destroying another ecosystem in conservation of another, it is unethical and unacceptable, and it endangers the entire world's living ecosystem. Okay? So, artificial structures are not coral reef. We cannot replicate that unless we spend time and invest in researching how corals live and how coral can replenish, and spend time in protecting this environment. Protect, don't replace. Here, I highlight in blue now. Yeah. Reduce pollution. Protect coasts and watersheds. Sustainable fisheries. Address the climate change. Addressing the climate change means championing things that will not create more carbon into the atmosphere and the ocean. We cannot give credit to people saying, oh, you get some carbon credit, you can back to business as usual. That's a lie. That is a global lie. Okay? If we want to reduce climate change through reduction of emission, we do it with purpose. We cannot say, oh, carbon credit. Carbon credit to who? To the more rich corporation, to the government, to the politicians, but does nothing for the world. Right? So, then support natural reef recovery. Okay? So, these are the steps that we should look into seriously and not trying to say, hey, it's good. I'm going to do some conservation here because the government is giving some carbon credit money. Yeah, you agree with the bribery? Many people agree with the bribery, thinking that, oh, we do blue carbon, green carbon, whatever carbon, and then we get paid. Is that how we protect the resources for the future generation, for our children, their grandchildren? No. Carbon credit does not protect your grandchildren. This does not protect your children. It does not protect you even. It protects the pockets of corporations. Okay? So that is the plain and simple raw truth about it. Okay? So now, protect and don't replace. Conservation lies on the building substitutes, but in protecting the natural processes that create the sustainable reef. Okay? Conservation lies not in the building of substitutes. Okay? So let's move on from here. It didn't, okay, here, this part here, I must reinforce again, it didn't help anything. It just masks the real problem. Okay, here, I just highlight just now. Okay, so let's move on. Let's see. Voila, different phases of artificial reefs, but the same destruction on land. All these materials, I'm going to highlight it in red maybe. Yeah, I'm going to highlight it. So I'm going to highlight the little circle there. Yeah, concrete modules, shipwrecks, whatever it is. It does not replace a natural coral reef. Tire reef, yeah, ballast reef, and the latest one, the 3D printed. Wow. Yeah, it's not an adapter for a torchlight. It is a reef. You cannot 3D print a geological structure. You cannot. It is promoted as innovative, sustainable, precision habitat. Okay, tell me, when they said sustainable, if, let's say, the cost of 1 square meter of this material is $1. If 1 square kilometers of coral reef is damaged, it is 1 million square meters. And therefore, that is only 1 square kilometer, you need $1 million. Yeah, and these structures are not $1. These are maybe $25, $30, $100 each, right? So, if that is the case, was it sustainable? Can it be scalable to offset the geological damage of coral reef? No, absolutely not. It is not sustainable. Okay, so this is the thing. And shipwrecks. It is promoted as diving attraction, tourism boost, and marine habitat. Okay. Yes, it is promoted as diving attraction. For who? For the fish? For the coral? No. For you, the divers. For people. Tourism boost. For who? The economic interest of people. That's tourism boost. What does it do ecologically? Marine habitat? No. Will a shipwreck actually become a geological structure like a coral reef? No, it don't. It attracts fish, yes. But the off-season, the fish that was attracted by this wreck will be easily caught by fishermen because he was attracted by the structure there. Yeah. So those are all the artificial reef that is presented. Yeah. Now, the reality of artificial versus that it is not natural. It is never a natural thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So it is low in biodiversity. If there is fish around the shipwreck, there is only a few, maybe several species. There won't be the entire reef ecosystem of fishes will come and live there. Why? Because it is highly predatory oriented environment. The fishes that congregate around there is because to run away from predators. Okay? So reef fishes have more crevices and more surface area that they can hide into as compared to one shipwreck, for example. And also, when you put your structure on the seafloor, this is the thing. If you have time, you can go to social media and see how they deploy these things. Sometimes they deploy it on sandy seafloor that has no history of living or dead reef. But then their banner says coral reef restoration. It does not. And by putting it on sandy seafloor, it doesn't mean it does not make any harm, because the sandy seafloor is an ecosystem itself. By putting something on top, whether rubble or sand or the reef slope, normally they don't put on reef slope because it's going to tumble and create more damage. But some people do. Yeah. It changed water flow. It changed seabed condition. It changed species behavior. Okay? So when I talk about fishes, when the fishes flee from divers, the rate of their fleeing is scientifically measurable to how much stress the environment there is. Okay? Chemical leaching. Most metal, concrete, rubber, plastic material leach chemical into the ocean, no matter what they claim. They can claim, oh, it's pH neutral. They claim all kinds of things for reasoning that they will want to put these things in the ocean to allow them to so-called scientifically proven that their structure is not harmful to the ocean. Okay? But in the truth, no man-made material will not degrade in the ocean. And when material degrade, there will be chemical leaching in the ocean. Okay? So that's the truth. And then this is also a short-term economic gain. Why? When you purchase the concrete, money change hands. You send it to fabrication, money change hands. You transport it to the ocean, money change hands. You deploy it in the ocean, money change hands. It is a scenario that creates economic potential for people. That is why people are so favorable of them. But will it actually function ecologically? No. Yeah. Short-term gain also sometimes is used for tourism. When it is used for tourism, can we take pictures of this and put it in a brochure for people in Europe to come to Asia to buy our packages to go dive? Nobody will come because it is artificial. So when does it create a tourism thing? When event management company organize the deployment of artificial reef to save coral reef of the world, all kind of things with banners and photographers and reporters with TV people around, it creates an event that is suitable for tourism. And this is a short-term gain with long-term implication. Okay? Then the artificial reef is not a substitute for nature, which now embedded deeply into many who believe it. Okay? So, real solutions and not fake reefs. This is what we want to do. So I'm going to talk about organic system and how actually people grow coral in this talks. Every week I'm going to talk and I'm going to go towards review of each system and review also how institutional science and citizen science that is favorable to ecology and the one that is not. Okay? So we can't save the ocean by destroying the earth. Remember this. Okay? We cannot save the ocean by destroying earth somewhere else. Stop destroying landscape for false solution. Restore nature, reduce extraction, rethink our choices. This is the thing that we must do. Right. Question? Yeah.
It's really a question. It's what I have been observing for so many years. It has been done in projects for so many years using concrete, metal, all sorts of stuff, like you said, artificial stuff. Lately, I have seen a video of dolphin construction placed in front of Koh, and there are actually marine biologists involved, also the government, and of course it's for the diving industry. And the pity is that some people take part and they really think they're doing their part to restore reef and participate and put all their energy, free time in it. And when I face them with things like this is not new to me, to be honest. They get upset because they think, hey, I've done something. How can you say this is a bad thing because corals are growing?
Okay, that is about education. Education is important because a lot of these people, they wanted so much to be acknowledged for what they do. They did not spend time learning. Okay, they want to do things. Example, I'll give you one example of artificial reef that actually is killing marine life. It is in Cambodia one time, and there is a lot of trawlers, like fishing trawlers, that is trawling very close to the shore, very close to the shore. and it devastates the seagrass area, the shallow reefs, and they create artificial reef with metal, like sharp edges metal, aimed to deter the trawlers from going into that area. And trawlers, they are not small machines. They are huge machines. For an average size of artificial reef, it can swallow it whole. But since this structure is designed to cut and entangle into the nets, they did. But the secondary problem arises. The broken net become ghost net. When we dive the next week, 7 dead turtles in those nets.
Oh.
You see? So this is how people did not think beyond or did not brainstorm enough to think about secondary impact, what will happen. Okay? So this is why we need to go back and start learning back again. This is why I'm teaching people about coral, about the ecology, about how nature works, about algae and sea plants, about how they function together. How does fishes work with coral? How does algae work with coral? Instead of pointing our finger on, oh, algae is bad, right? So the algae is there not because it's bad, because it is there because we created a suitable environment for it to bloom by putting man-made structure that is clean and releasing whatever toxin that will be absorbed by the algae. So this is the thing that we have to address. Okay, I think that is my half an hour is up. I'm gonna start recording.
Thank you.